Welcome back to Cards and Comics, guys. Today I have another 90s box break. This is going to go back a little ways. This is 92 Leaf, and I know this is not going to be one of the exciting mid to late 90s products with cool inserts, autographs. But this is kind of a good set in two ways. One, it has the gold, the black gold inserts, or the variations, or parallels, however you want to put it. But they truly were the first parallel of a base set that really came out. It was one of the first parallels. 92 Topps Gold, I think, was the other one. So this was before refractors, things like that. So it was cool. And I think it was nicer. They were nicer in design than the 92 Topps Gold. I think it was the nicest looking parallel set until refractors. So there's that. And there's also the Gold Leaf Rookies. Fortunately, there's only like one Hall of Famer in that set. I mean, Pedro Martinez. But this is Series 2. Series 2 has another distinction. Bonds, Griffey, and Frank Thomas are all in Series 2. So let's hope we pull a black gold. That would be really cool. Now, I'm very worried about, and I can feel this box. It's got that feel, like of a box that's been around. Maybe some card shows, some kind of dirty and dusty. So hopefully we don't see some stickiness in the packs. So here is the packs there. Whoa. Pop this out so we get the full effect of how we wanted us to look at these cards back in 1992 when they were on the shelf at your local LCS. There you go. I got some lights here, but we'll try to get those out of the way and open some packs. So yeah, this is going to be fun. I think it's going to be, at least one of those things where we have, something to talk about with the inserts. So let's do the little crack test. No cracking. And again, these weren't as glossy and as coated as some of the other sets. But there's a lot of packs. This is 36 packs. So we're going to do this. We're going to have to really do a lot of multiple pack cracking, so that we can get through this in a reasonable time frame. Because I do want people to kind of see the box, what an entire box looks like. So I understand, there's just a lot of packs to open here. So we'll go through and we stack some packs over here off camera a little bit so we don't have everything on screen. But yeah, I want to make sure we can get through this in a reasonable amount of time, honestly. But the Thomas, Griffey, and Bonds are on play, and the parallel will be cool. If we pull a parallel, I would definitely love pulling a parallel. I got some soft sleeves here ready to go in case we do that. Because, if they're nice enough, a PSA 10 on some of those cards is worth a little bit of money. Worth grading, honestly. The packs are a little loose. I will see that. And then here we go. Now, I remember 91 or 90 Leaf was a massive design improvement, but by 92, these cards had started to get a little stale. And I really think 91 Leaf really killed this product because they really overprinted it. But in 92, they just didn't really change the design up enough to make it interesting year over year. So they added inserts to 92 to make it a little more interesting. But again, by 93 and 94, this set had gotten kind of glossy in a little bit, but it just became more like Stadium Club. So the set kind of lost its luster a little bit, and eventually it kind of just went away. All right, first one, we got George Bell. Cool. And then we'll just kind of get through the base cards. Here's what the back look like. Again, compared to today's cards, these are very basic. Again, basic design. And I think this, again, was something that really hurt it was, just like Stadium Club got very, their design became just like changing the location of the logos and the border. Up until like, there's a Sandberg. Some of the photos are very nice in here. But, they just kept moving things, kind of making the same card, but just a little different. And, Leaf eventually became more known, later on for more of a glossy design. But here they were still kind of regular, let's say, cardboard, not the UV coated. So here we go. Mike Boddicker. Pedro's brother, Ramon. Stan Belinda, the 90s Pirates. So again, all right, first insert. I remember as a kid, these were huge. As a kid, I would go with my mom on every, during the summertime, we would go to the, there was a flea market, and we would go to the flea market, and there was always a guy there with baseball packs, and he had 91 and 92 Leaf. And I remember just opening up a ton of that to try to get them back, the Mike Messina, and also the 92. So just getting inserts back in 91, 92 were really cool. And Donovan Osborne was a pretty good player. I'd say he was, a fairly good pitcher for 4 or 5 years. Was a start. I mean, he was just like one of those players that, like, Bobby Bowe, you don't really think of today, as like, oh, this guy was a stud, but he definitely was, he had rookie cards that people chased a little bit back in the day. Was on some good Cardinal teams. So again, I think, back in 92, Donovan Osborne would have been pretty fun to pull. All right, Chuck Finley. Flipped, but it's Kirk McCaskill. So still no luck. I guess the number one, Ozzie Smith. So that's to be a cool one to pull. I love kind of those older vet players like Ozzie Smith that didn't have a ton of awesome inserts. And there's Chris Sabo. My buddy collects Chris Sabo. Ken Hill and Rich Gossett. So, a couple packs in. So we're going to go through fast. I know I'm opening up one at a time right now, but we'll start hitting them pretty hard in a little bit. I just want to get a feel for the set and how they're kind of looking at a pack. Kevin Brown, okay, well, he was really good. Kevin Brown is one of those guys. I do like the fact that the back is gold, and so silver and gold. Kevin Brown was definitely on one of those teams, or on those players that was on a Hall of Fame trajectory, and I don't think he was that far off. But I think it's just one of those kind of things where, like a lot of Hall of Fame players, they just kind of, or guys who barely didn't make it, their last 4 or 5 years, they really, or maybe even last 2 or 3, they just didn't do enough to keep going, and therefore they didn't make it. And I think that is a very common theme. When you look at guys like, one of my favorites, like Al Oliver, we're going to open 5 at a time. Al Oliver was one of those guys that he fell into that collusion. Remember when the owners got in trouble for colluding on veteran contracts? And basically had a good last year, could have played another year, and they just didn't let him because of, they were trying to keep salaries low. They didn't want the veterans. They were, to sign these deals anymore. And they basically wrote some of those guys out of baseball, instead of signing them to a deal because they had to pay him more money. So they just said, nah, we're not going to play. We're just not going to sign you. And he and a few others were involved in lawsuits. But it definitely hurt Al Oliver because he theoretically had a shot at 3,000 hits. Here's Randy Johnson. So again, some good players in this set, which is kind of a shame. That kind of cost him a shot because 3,000 hits would have been automatic, Hall of Fame for any player. You get 3,000 hits. There's just some numbers like 500 home runs is, to me, a little more iffy, honestly. It used to be lock, and Jose Canseco was like 464. There's a lot of guys close to it. But I'm not sure in the future with all the home runs we're hitting today, that you're going to see 500 as maybe the gold standard going in the future. But, you never know. I think it's one of those, something to be determined. I do think wins are going to really go down. There's Barry Bonds. Look at that. And that is a beautiful card. Look at that. So let's look at it. I mean, these are packed fresh. It looks really well centered, so I am going to put this in a sleeve. Hopefully we don't damage it. I'll do the old sleeve side notch. And yeah, this is like I mean, to me, like, this box is a lot of fun to open, honestly, because this product is so darn cheap. I think you could probably get a box of this for $30 if you really looked around enough. This is definitely one of those products that doesn't cost a ton. All right, so there's Barry Bonds. I think that's a really cool card. Our first kind of hit. I mean, it's not worth a ton like this, but in the PSA 10, and I'm going to do like those channels that, like, you know, but in a 10, it's worth, you know, whatever, $200. I'm not going to say that. I'm just saying, like, I'll look at it even closer, but to me, it's a card that I would submit in. If PSA had, like, you know, like a bulk submission, right? Put it in a bulk submission. The Sandberg. Oh, Frank Thomas. Look at that. Holy crap. This is like the greatest box of 92 Leaf ever. Back to back, Frank Thomas and Barry Bonds. Wow. That's pretty cool. That is pretty awesome. I'm digging that. So let's look at this card. They kind of like a little bit of like powder on them, like a little bit, maybe like, I don't know, or dust from. So anyway, that is a gorgeous card. And there's the back. Wow. You got to remember, there's a full parallel. This is a full parallel set. There's 264 cards in this set. So you're only getting 36 you know, cards in the box for the Black Gold to hit 2 of the 3, you know, best cards in the set to Black Gold. That's pretty hard. To hit the Bonds and the Frank Thomas back to back. That's pretty darn cool. That's what I'm saying. This is what the 90s products are all about, guys. I mean, you know, you might say, well, that's on eBay. You can get that card for $4 or $2 or $5 shipped or whatever. And, you know, whatever. But I mean, I paid like $30 for this box, honestly. So, you know, and I got to open it out of a pack. And again, if that card grades a 9 or 10, it's probably going to be worth more than maybe the box cost. So, you know, that's cool. Now, obviously, the big card to pull out of here would be the Griffey. That would be awesome. But, yeah. But, yeah, I do wish grading was more economical, especially with inconsistencies that PSA is having right now. I am not a big fan of grading. They've made so many mistakes recently, just on, and the mistakes they're making aren't like, oh, we're, you know, like David Wells. So you can see, like, on the cards, these little, it's just dust. It's like right there. There's some dust. So I don't know how, if they put a little powder coating on them so that the cards didn't get all damaged. But yeah, there's David Wells, another really good player who could have been a Hall of Famer as well. Yeah, the mistakes that PSA is making isn't, like, you know, in my opinion, they're not like, oh, you know, just, we're, you know, grading harder now, and, you know, the standards have changed and we're just, you know, a tougher grading. No, they're not just a tougher grader. That's not what's going on. It's, they don't have the experience in some of these guys grading cards that maybe they don't know a lot about. Wow. Jose Canseco. That's a great looking card too. It's a really good box, honestly. But yeah, like, they don't know the product. They don't know the cards. They don't know the sets, the intricacies. And so they make, you know, mistakes. I was reading where they, you know, there's an insert from the 90s that has a string attached to it. You know, it's part of the design like, I think it's Ticket to Stardom, or it's one of those insert sets that actually has like a attached, it was part of the design, and they cut the string off of it to put it in the holder. And it's just like, well, you just ruined the card. You just literally, ruin that. Chris Gwynn, Tony Gwynn's brother. You just ruined that dude's card. There's another gold leaf rookie. And these are 5 per box, according to Baseball Cardpedia. But, just to like not know that is part of the card, or that it's important for collectors that is part of that card. I just find it like horrible that they would do something like that, because you can't just do that and then fix it. Chris Nabholz, go back and be like, oh, my bad, like we can reattach it. That's not what you can do. And it's just one of those things where it just shows that they either don't know what the heck they're doing, or they don't really care, and they're just doing stuff, honestly, that makes no sense. Just I'm not here crying over my grades, even though my last grades were terrible. I will admit that, and I'll do a video when I get those cards in. They'll be coming in next week. But it's just the fact they don't know what they're doing. They don't know the cards. They don't know so that's one example. Like, they cut off the string attached to a card that was part of the design, recently. But a lot of times, they don't understand, like on die cuts, that when a machine cuts a card, from a factory, makes a die cut, there's what we call like an impression left by the tool, the die, right? There's an impression, and that impression, on the card, happens because of pressure. Anytime you cut something, the cardboard around the cut gets pressed on, and sometimes it leaves like a little indent in the card. I've seen PSA give like cut aboves and other die cut cards from like a 99 finest cards. 99 finest cards. Like, give them 6s for those little pressure, those little indents from the cutting tool, and acting like those are creases. They're not creases. That's like giving a rough cut Bowman, a rough cut of Peachy card, a 6 or a 5 because it's got a rough cut. That is how the card was made. It's not anything. It has nothing to do with the condition post production. It's how those cards are made, but they don't care in the PSA world. They're just like, oh, I see something here that I don't think should be there, even though I don't even know enough about this card to even probably be grading it. But I'm going to give it a 5 or 6, and then you send it back in, and you get a different grader, and it comes back an 8 or 9. You send it to SGC, it's a 8, 9, or 10 sometimes. Orlando Merced. I was a big fan of Orlando Merced, and I do like the Leaf having these horizontal designs. Honestly, they are very nice cards. Honestly, like, hell, there's a Griffey, their first Griffey I pulled. Honestly, like, I would put together this black gold set. And I know some collectors who have. I think it's fairly tough to find the cards today because people really, they didn't keep them because they just weren't part of, I would say, like, they didn't have the value for people like, refractors to keep all the commons. Like, you can probably find a few of the like a Griffey or Nolan Ryan Hall of Famers. But the fact that to keep all 490 probably commons in the set, I think that would have been probably a tall order to ask for some of these guys to do that. For all these years to go out into a card show now and to go through someone's common bin and find these cards today would be, God, this is like our 4th Carlton Fisk. A tall task, but that's why I say I don't know if like you could actually finish the set today unless you did it yourself out of packs. Like, try to get like 90% of the set out of a pack, then go find the rest of them. All right. There we go. Mike Gardner. This has been a really good opening. I mean, honestly, like, if you're just in it for the black golds, sorry, I'm not flipping them anymore. Is that 2 Duck Stranges right in the back to back? Sorry, Doug Strange and Doug Strange. Oh boy, 90s Coalition is awesome. I flipped them over for no reason because they're back flipped over again. There's Bob Walk. I watched a video on YouTube about the 81 World Series, and the starting pitcher for the Phillies was Bob Walk for Game 1. I thought that was just interesting because he was a good pitcher, but he was never like a Hall of Fame or type pitcher or even All-Star type pitcher. Maybe 1 or 2 years he was an All-Star. I mean, he was okay. He was a good pitcher, but he wasn't. I just didn't think he was a Game 1 World Series type pitcher. Another Randy Johnson. So yeah, like that is, oh my gosh. Yeah, we haven't hit an actual base Thomas or Bonds. It's really weird. Bill Kruger. And our third gold Leaf Stars. And I think the 91 version of these was much cooler than the 92. Again, they just changed the border a little bit. And I didn't like how they framed that, inside the frame of the card. I think it looks cooler when it's got real borders than like fake borders like that. So yeah, like not a huge fan of what's going on with PSA right now. Just, so I'm thinking about using SGC for my next order. I have used SGC a couple times, and in all honesty, like they were within 1 grade of like either above or below every pre-grade I made, like across the board. And, I pre-graded this order that's coming up from PSA with at least 2 other dealers. Like we just looked at the cards and we agreed, we all kind of got within 1 grade of each other, plus or minus. We talked about, the reasons why the cards might go higher or lower. In fact, I was told by the submitter, I submitted through, to be prepared to get upcharged. And he's like, yeah, you're going to get upcharged in this order. There's no way you're not. You got some really awesome 90s cards in there. You're going to get upcharged. So just prepared for it. I said, that's fine. That's a good thing, right? Well, I get the email that, hey, this order's done. And I'm like, okay, well, I wonder what the upcharge is going to be. I'm waiting for that, because you have to pay for the order before you can see the grades. And I get the invoice, and it's the flat fee. And I'm like, well, that's a bad sign. That's a bad sign when everything is flat. I got no upcharges. And I got the order, and I saw it. I'm like, yeah, this is awful. Awful. And, some cards were 3 grades off of what was pre-graded. Multiple cards were 3 grades off. A lot of 2, there were some cards that graded what? Like there was a couple cards that graded exactly what we thought. But there was multiple cards that were like 3 grades off. So I'm going to get them, and then we're going to see if we need to send it back to PSA or maybe ship them to SGC like I did before. And you saw the video I did on my PSA to SGC crossover. Again, we got the 2 or 3 grade bumps on a few cards like I predicted would happen. And this is what's probably going to happen again, because I can see myself missing 1 card or 2 cards, but this order was a lot, more than that. So it's just, we'll see. I mean, when I get the cards in hand, I may have missed something. We may have all missed something. And I will say this, and again, I hate being the conspiracy guy, but this has happened. I know it's happened. It's happened to other people. PSA damages your cards sometimes through shipping and handling and whatever. I might, maybe it's not PSA, maybe it's your shipping company, whatever. During the process, the card was damaged, and it's just a thing that happens. I mean, it's not like I'm going to sit here and tell you like, oh, that's a myth. You know, it's just you missed it. No, it happens, and they admit it happens. It's not like it's a unknown thing that your cards will get damaged if you send them to PSA. And again, it could be other vendors, you know, along in the process. I'm not saying it's always PSA, but the card can get damaged, and then therefore you get the lower grade. Oh, it's a cool card. Again, Hall of Famer Fred McGriff. See, that's awesome to get a Hall of Famer card. I think it's so cool. So therefore that could have happened. So again, could it just be a lot of bad luck where I missed something on a couple cards were damaged in shipping or during the grading process and whatever. That all could be true. But it just sucks. And especially on cards like this that are pretty rare, you know, hard to find, hard to replace. So yeah, so I'm not thrilled, with the outcome, but we'll see how it goes from there. The thing that's going to suck though is just like last time is I said there and said, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with these cards. I'm going to send them to SGC, and lo and behold, Rich Rodriguez. They were, for the most part, highly undergraded. I think only one card came back the same exact grade. Everything else got a bump. And again, people will say, well, that's just because SGC grades easier than PSA. Again, I am telling you, and this has been confirmed by almost literally everybody I trust in this topic around grading, including multiple dealers who have basically abandoned PSA that were huge submitters, that their knowledge is lacking to the extent it's damaging their brand, it's damaging, well, some places cards themselves, but it's so obvious that they don't know enough about what they're doing because they've had to ramp up this, you know, operation so much to grade the, you know, million plus cards, or whatever, the million cards a month that they're grading. So that's the trade-off they made is Benito Santiago. They made the deal, you know, they made the trade-off of speed and volume over consistency. And that's really what we're seeing. And that's what's happening. And people can sometimes, and again, they hit the nail, you know, they get it right, probably more often than they don't. But it's just like when you give them something they don't see every day. And this is what I'm, you know, saying is you send them some cards from sets they don't see every day. They don't understand what, you know, the set. They don't know how the set's made or some of the nuances of a set like that, like the one, like the card I was telling you about where they cut the, you know, the string off of it. Then they do something stupid and they damage the card, or grade it improperly, and then it is what it is. And that's what's happening on the high end. You see I'm not making that up. See, there is some like white powder on these cards. John Kruk, pretty cool player. And that's it's very, very, very tough, to keep sending the cards to PSA and having those kind of things happen. So we shall see. All right, so we're getting actually through the box break at a pretty good clip. I mean, for as many packs as we got. Greg Swindell. Every time I see a player that was on the Indians team in the 90s, I'm always like, is he one of the ones that got in the boating accident? Like, I don't know those names. There's Frank Thomas. There's our first Frank Thomas. Cool. All right. Glad to get the base. All right. Dennis Cook. Love that uniform, man. I love that Indians uniform. That's the major league uniform, guys. Love that uniform. It's such a cool uniform. My favorite Indians uniform of all time, by far, is that uniform right there. Love it. In fact, I totally want a Wild thing, like a Ricky Vaughn throwback jersey. I do have a couple. They did a Heritage throwback set with Major League, and I do have a few autographs. I don't have the Charlie Sheen. I think I've got two of the autos. I've got the guy played Harris, the pitcher. So I've got that. But that's a cool set. I'd like to get that. It's like, they did a Field of Dreams, and they have a really tough Costner auto, and I think they haven't done the natural, which is a shame. They could have done that real early on and still got maybe some of the actors. And then I'm trying to think if they did Bull Durham. I think they did Bull Durham too. I'm pretty sure. All right, last pack, Luis Rivera. All right, go through the comments here. Oh no, man down. I'm not flipping them. Sorry if your OCD can't handle this. But there we go. Mike Stanton. I like the fact there's been multiple players with that name. They're all very different players. Here we go. So it's interesting. I don't think we hit a base Barry Bonds unless I missed one. So out of all these cards, we did not hit a base Barry Bonds. And I don't know where the black gold was in that pack. I wish it was that guy. But there is David Silvestri. Okay. John Wetland. That's a really good player. Was a really good player. For a lot of years. I think he got involved. I think was it Wetland that got some stuff after he retired, some bad stuff. Was that Wetland? I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you know the story about John Wetland. I think it's John Wetland. I'm pretty sure it's him, but maybe it's not. I don't want to slander a guy for no reason, but I thought he was one of the relievers. And Gary DeSarcina, again, hitting some gold leaf rookies at the end of the break here. All right, a couple more golds and we're done. Dale Swaim. Oh man, not the good one. Gary Sheffield. My gosh, Series 2 is crazy. Like, why would Series 2 have all three Bonds, Griffey, and Thomas? I don't know, but they do. They do. And Nolan Ryan's in Series 1. So at this time, Nolan Ryan was still the big dude. There's Deion Sanders. All right, last black gold. Here we go, guys. Ken Griffey Jr. Oh, Scott Radinsky. Oh man. If we hit a Griffey in this box, that would have been, it's another base Frank. That would have been like the greatest box of this product ever opening, because really it's all about the black golds. And if you hit the Trinity, there's 2 Frank Thomas cards up in the sleeves. But yeah, if you'd hit the Trinity, all 3 of the black golds that you would want to pull on a box, that would have been pretty dang awesome. Pretty darn awesome. It would be hard to argue about the box being a bad box, if you got something like that. All right, so the non-blacks, or tier 1 blacks, there's some Hall of Famers in here. So let's go through kind of the recap here. Again, best uniform ever for the Indians. So we've got John Kruk, which is a good player. Benito Santiago, which definitely borderline Hall of Famer. Fred McGriff, a Hall of Famer. So there we go. Hall of Famer. And and I think maybe that was the best. Oh, I think we had a Jose Canseco in here. There's Jose Canseco. Again, very popular player. So this card in a PSA 10 would be something cool. David Wells, very good player. Threw a perfect game. Kevin Brown. So, last one, which was for George Bell, was an amazing player hit that one of those 5 to 10 year runs. That was really good. Really good. All right. Some other, got 2 Frank Thomas base cards. No base cards of Barry Bonds. Now, I did get 5 golds, and these are you're supposed to get 5 per box. So, got Gary DeSarcina, David Silvestri, Johnny Ruffin, Ed Martell, and Donovan Osborne. I would probably think Donovan Osborne was probably the best of those, but I know he was a player for a few years as well. And then kind of the cool hits. There's 2 Griffey base cards, and they both look pretty nice. This one's a little off center compared to that one, but 2 Griffey base cards, and then the 2 really nice hits. I mean, honestly, out of a box like this, 264 cards in the box, or in the set, and to pull the Barry Bonds and Frank Thomas out of one box, it's pretty dang awesome. And I really, really enjoyed opening that box, even though it was, low probability of cool rewards. We got really cool cards out of that. 2 cards that I may end up getting graded. They look really nice. And there's the backs on both of them. So again, these are awesome cards. I mean, they're not super expensive, but this is what the 90s is about. Just digging for some gold, finding some really awesome stuff. In these boxes are pretty darn cheap, guys. So, I'm not going to tell you to go buy a box of this and you'll get the same box as I got, but you can see that they're at least fun to open. And there are cards in here that are very, very design-wise, very pleasing to the eye. The gold, along with the black borders, is a very nice looking card. All right, guys, that's it. That is the Box of 92 Leaf Series 2. Had a lot of fun, actually. One of my best box breaks I've had in a while. I got some cool cards. Some cards I want to keep for my PC and maybe grade a few. So that's all you can ask for in a box like this. So I'll see you next time on Cards and Comics. Bye.